One, two, three. Hey everybody, Trey Hensley here. As a bluegrass guitarist, whether you're jamming with your friends or playing in a band, versatility, technical skill, and musicality are your secret weapons. Timing and rhythm chops are the heart and soul of that driving, high-energy bluegrass sound that we all love. In bluegrass, the guitarist does it all, supporting vocalists and soloists, interacting with the other instruments, and nailing those runs, melodies, and solos with precision and flair. And that is exactly what we're going to dive into here with Bluegrass Blaze. We'll cover right-hand techniques, cross-picking, essential bluegrass vocabulary, rhythmic tricks, solo crafting, speed building, and so much more. I'll show you a technique and we'll put it to work right away over a backing track. Plus, everything's tabbed and synced to the videos with slow motion, looping, and fretboard animation controls so you can learn at your own pace. So grab your guitar and let's pick.
Hey everyone, I am Jeff Sheets for TrueFire. Man, we've got a really fun TrueFire Live for you here. It's really a launch party for Trey's new TrueFire course, Bluegrass Blaze. Amazing stuff we're going to get into. We're going to play some stuff from there. We're going to talk about the course. We're going to answer your questions. So if you've got any questions for Trey, drop them in the chat and we will get to what we can, but we've got a lot to cover here. You know, everybody that's stopped by, if you want, drop in the chat also where you're tuning in from, where are you watching from. That's always fun to see, you know, where everybody is watching from. So do that. And in the meantime, I don't really need to talk anymore because we're going to bring on the man. Let's bring on Trey Hensley. Trey, what's up, buddy?
How's it going, Jeff? All's well, man. How are you doing?
Oh, you doing great, man. It's great. Good to have you here. We're so excited, man. We're number one excited for, you know, for just you being part of the TrueFire family, but awesome to be able to chat here live and kind of hang out.
Yeah, man, this is great. Love being here. Love what y'all do.
Oh, well, you know, I remember, I can't remember. There was a bunch of us TrueFire folks. And I don't remember if it was a NAMM show. It might have been at a folk festival or something, but I remember sitting down there. We were sitting like right up in the front row, and it was you and Rob playing a set.
Yeah.
And I remember we were all just like, holy smokes, this dude is like from another planet, you know? Turns out you're just from Tennessee, but you know, that was our initial reaction was, oh my gosh. And that was years ago. And we kept saying, oh, we want to do something, but you know, you've been so busy. It's super hard to get you nailed down to do something and doing a lot of other stuff. So we're just stoked we finally got you in the studio and we did this course with you.
Yeah, well, same here, man. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad we finally connected and got some stuff down.
Yeah, well, we definitely got some stuff down. If anybody that's tuning in, if we'll talk about the course, but if you haven't picked it up, link is in the text description there. Go check it out. Pick this course up. It is hours and hours of instruction. Trey breaks down a bunch of different tunes and then talks about all the techniques that go into them. We'll talk a little while about all the tools and stuff that you can have to slow this down and figure it out and zoom in and loop things. It's kind of amazing tech that's going into it too, right? Which is kind of cool to take something that's as raw and earthy, if you will, as bluegrass, you know, and the real rootsy nature of that. And then we apply all this fancy tech and you can do all these crazy things with it, you know?
I love it, man. I love it. Bluegrass
So, man,
in the new world.
It is the new world. So what was your first memory of saying, I want to play guitar? What was the thing that you can remember where you're like, you saw a guitar and decided, yeah, that's what I'm going to do?
You know, it's funny because there are pictures and videos of me when I was, you know, 3 or 4 years old, always just strumming boxes or, you know, making noise. And I always loved music. I didn't really grow up in a musical family. My dad did play banjo when I was a kid, and he kind of gave that up at a certain point. And but I always, you know, wanted to play an instrument, but I didn't really know what. And I grew up in the '90s in this CMT era, and would watch a lot of players play. I remember seeing Marty Stuart on a video, playing guitar, and but it wasn't until I went to a bluegrass festival, and and I saw these two guys, Jimmy Martin and Charlie Waller, who are kind of really the backbones of bluegrass music. Jimmy Martin was known as the king of bluegrass, and I saw those two guys at a bluegrass festival. But really, Charlie Waller taking a guitar solo. He just played a very basic guitar solo on a song, but that was the first time I'd ever really got to see somebody in person, not only playing guitar but actually playing guitar. Not just as a rhythm instrument, and that just sort of blew me away. And I went home and started playing pretty close to that very day, and that was when I was 10. And but I like I said, I've always just loved music. It's always been a very big part for as long as I can remember. I've always listened to records and CDs, and music has just always been going. And so I was glad I was able to put something with that and make my own.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great, man. That's so cool that sort of was your inspiration. And now here you are, inspiring other people, not only going out and playing, but like doing this course and stuff and helping sort of, pass it along, right? Keep passing it along, which is really kind of the bluegrass tradition as well,
That's the
right? It's
ticket,
something
man.
that's
That is the
the way it's
ticket.
always been. Bluegrass is a little bit unique in that regard. It's a very community-based thing, players sharing knowledge and that kind of stuff. So very cool. On doing this course, I mean, I know when we first talked about doing this course, it was a little bit of, what do we do? How do we approach this? And I think the way you did it and approach this was really cool because you're actually showing tunes, right? You're showing,
Yeah.
songs, which is obviously another huge thing in bluegrass, right? Is
Yes.
actually
Yeah.
playing tunes, not just noodling around and doing whatever. It's actually playing tunes, So how did you think about like picking out the songs and thinking about what you wanted to showcase on here?
Well, it's a little bit like I tried to put a bunch of different things on there, and I tried to make it pretty unique. It's not like here are the 10 bluegrass standards you have to know at jam, but it's something that each one of these songs will help you advance and be a better player. But when I first started playing guitar, that was really what was sort of an eye-opening thing, was that every week when I would go, I took lessons for about a year from a very great teacher in East Tennessee, and every week we learned a new tune, and we would really get inside the tune and learn the core melody, ways to make the melody maybe more interesting or more guitar friendly. Listen to other players play, Doc Watson or Tony Rice or Maybelle Carter or anybody. We'd listen to whoever had played that tune and pick up the way they interpreted it. And through all that, I think it's a very tune, like you said, it's a very tune based music. It's a very vocabulary based music. So as you pick up those things, you're building the toolbox for your tools to go in, and once you with bluegrass, you really have to get in the music, and you have to know just the history of it, and it's very deep. It's a very deep music, and so it's important to know all the little fiddle licks and nuances of the guitar, and I try to talk about that a lot in the course throughout the different tunes. Uh, but really, when I was putting them together, I tried to make a list of here are, you know, 10 or 12 songs that are going to help make you a better guitar player, and not just be like, well, here's the 10 songs you'll hear at every jam. Because really, I feel like the songs that I talk about in the course are songs that once you pick those up, these other tunes that are kind of standards you'll hear in the jams, or you'll hear at the bluegrass festivals or whatever, are songs you can then pick up by ear, which is another big part of this music, is being able to hear it, and um, just developing that side of it, and so that's when I was going in to think about what tunes to pick out for this. That was my big deciding factor, was what are the tunes that'll help you the most, and I feel like we kind of captured that.
Yeah, I definitely think you captured that, and got a great mix of different feels, sort of different things. Some classic tunes, some that everybody recognizes, and others maybe not quite so much, but they all sort of serve a purpose, I think, to sort of be a showcase for whatever technique you're teaching. I think that's the cool thing that Trey really captures on this is here's a tune and here's a cool thing you can take away from it. Besides learning the tune, here's this little nugget that basically will help you, as you said, with other tunes, right? Because it's all
Yeah.
about learning something that you can then take and do other stuff with. Let's listen to it. Let's play a track. Let's
Yeah.
roll one so everybody can kind of check it out. I think this first one you're even singing on, right?
All right. Yeah, that's likely true.
One, two, three. About a half a mile down that river road, just across the bridge where the preacher don't know. Field of corn, 6 feet tall, put it in a jar for the first snowfall. Well, that river bridge cuts the county in two between the Comedy Center, chosen few. Moonlight spell the first cool night. I make my way over to the other side. Don't let them catch you all and shine. You know what's best. For Sunday morning, find you in jail with your name on a prayer request. Keep your foot hard on the pedal and your hand close to the gun. Hear me roaring down the valley on the moonshine run. Well, the Lord knows all, even what you hide, but the devil's gonna give you one hell of a ride. The Methodist way makes the Baptist shiver, but you're gonna see them both down at the river. Don't let them catch you flying shine. You know what's best. For Sunday morning, find you in jail with your name on a prayer request. Keep your foot hard on the pedal and your hand close to the gun. Hear me roaring down the valley on the moonshine run. That old river is muddy and deep and the law won't find. Well, all it keeps, shotguns, bodies, rusty Chevrolets. They're all at the bottom, there they'll stay. Don't let them catch you fall and shine. You know what's best. A Sunday morning find you in jail with your name on a prayer request. Keep your foot hard on the pedal and your hand close to the gun. Hear me roaring down the valley on a moonshine run. Hear me roaring down the valley on a moonshine run.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Such good playing, man, and really good stuff. So, a couple of people asking a couple questions, really asking
Yeah.
about this course, about if it's super advanced or if it's what sort of level you have to be. And I'll let you answer that, but I do believe there's obviously some wicked playing on here that's pretty amazing. But there's also a lot of insight and concepts that you teach that are really not super advanced. I mean, they're basic stuff, right? I mean, how would you sort of describe that?
Well, I mean, I will say that when I went into this, my big thing was that I didn't want it to just be, here is how you would go about, playing fast on every tune. Here's, a bunch of fast licks that you have to be super advanced to play. Um, I really wanted this course to just sort of encompass uh, acoustic guitar, making you a better player all around. There are hours and hours of stuff on here. We talked for a long time. I talked a lot over this course, and I wanted to make it as guitar friendly for all sort of. It's not even specifically bluegrass. It has to be. Just for every player of every genre of every level, something that you can take away from it, and that was really important when I went in to pick out the material for this, or when I, sat down and we talked about, the outline of how the course was going to go. Um, I wanted there to be plenty of material that if you're coming in, outside of not knowing, your basic chord shapes, there are things you can pick up from this course. And even if you're just sort of dipping your toe in the bluegrass well, there's stuff you can pick up from it. I talked a lot about bending, so there's things for electric guitars. Um, Throughout, even though it's an acoustic guitar course, there are parts of it that, can encompass things that any player uh, can pick up.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Very good stuff. Well, I've got a question for that. We're gonna get back to that. But someone asked in that last video, what capo were you using? What kind of capo are you playing?
So I was using that's a good question. There's a guy that, and I cannot think of his name, but he made it for me as a gift in Floyd, Virginia. We
Nice.
played out there, and it's basically, I will say this. So I have a lot of capos. And my favorite ones are the cradle style capos that go around and you have control of how much you can tighten.
Yep.
And so some of my favorites, I like they're called cat eyes, I think, or Kateyz, and that guy makes great capos. Elliott capos are great. Page, there's plenty of the folks out there making those style capos, and they kind of all work the same.
Yep.
That's one thing about the bluegrass world with picks and strings and capos. You can get really deep, in the thick of it. So just it's important to find what works and
Yeah.
stick with
Yeah. If it
that.
works for you, then it's
If
a
it
winner,
works,
right?
if you like it, I love it.
So talking about, you cover a lot of different techniques, different techniques that maybe thought of as a little bit more bluegrass type things. So, like for example, cross picking, right, which
Yeah.
is a huge thing. Everybody talks about it. People get a little bit confused about what that is. So, let's say you have a person who's a early intermediate player who's just trying to get cross picking the idea down and doing some stuff. What would you show them? Kind of how would you go about telling them, hey, here's what you should be working on to get that down?
Yeah, there are a couple of pretty basic exercises, and I say basic, but really they are difficult to sort of get under your fingers. And I started doing a lot of cross picking exercises probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I started having some right hand issues, or not hand, but it was more forearm issues, and I was trying to do things where I could practice the fluidity of my right hand and getting um, just easier access when I'm playing with my right hand. The left hand's never given me much problem, but it's always the right hand where all this tension is sort of built up. Because with bluegrass, you're trying to get volume and tone and all this stuff, and it all comes from your right hand. So your right hand's very important, and obviously the cross picking stuff comes from there as well. The first thing I'll always talk about with players is cross picking. The way I think of it is basically three notes. It's a three-note cluster that you play with your right hand. There are plenty of examples of it in the bluegrass world. Songs like "Rank Strangers." So when you think about cross picking, the cross picking parts of that were those three notes in a row. And so what I'll talk about when I'm talking about cross picking is I'll tell, make a G chord, a C chord, whatever left hand's really not important. I will try to do something with my left hand just so I'm not driving my family crazy by hearing. But so I'll just make a G or a C, and I'll play three note clusters over with my right hand playing, sixth string, fifth string, fourth, fifth, fourth, third, second, third, second, first. And when I do that, I'll try to do it and break it down every time. An important part of all this bluegrass stuff is alternate picking. And that's I get really into the alternate picking stuff in the videos. And there are different circumstances where maybe you'll play a down, down, up, like especially on the older stuff like Rank Strangers, where I'm doing two downstrokes and one upstroke. That's a very rare case for me. When I'm playing cross picking, the majority of the time it's alternate pick. So downstroke, upstroke, downstroke. and I'll play, 6-5-4, 5-4-3, 4-3-2, 3-2-1, and I'll separate it like that. And then I'll do a whole round where it's not separated, where I'm just playing everything. So it's down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And so it's that is where the rubber sort of meets the road. I think when you're practicing slow, it's really important to just take those 3 notes and get the pick strokes right. Down, up, down. Reset, down, up, down. Reset. And then you can go back up, and then do the whole thing as a piece. And so you're not resetting after every 3 notes. So you're taking it, 6-5-4, 5-4-3, 4-3-2, 3-2-1, 1-2-3-2, 3-4-2, 4-5-3, 4-5-6. So you're going, down the strings, up the strings, but you're going in 3-note clusters, or you think about them in 3-note clusters. So the important part of all of this, of guitar in general, from every electric and every style, is practicing slow, getting everything going in the right direction, getting everything, played cleanly, and a lot of the bluegrass stuff, it comes from your right hand. So that's the stuff where it's you really have to work on it.
Awesome. That's good information. And, as you just mentioned how important all this stuff is, we have questions about this stuff coming in.
All right.
So, like, how do you hold your pick? Like pick angle and stuff. Give us a little detail on how do you angle your pick when you're picking through stuff?
That is a key detail. And so other key parts of this, and it's inclusive for all pick styles, but it is important to note that I always play with kind of a big triangular pick. And the way that I hold it is that there's very little of the pick coming out. Another important thing to note of these particular picks, and every pick that I use, they all have a bevel. And so you can kind of see it where there's a little bit of an angle here on the side. And they call that a speed bevel. I don't feel like it makes you any faster, but it is there. One of the key things that I like to focus on when I'm playing is when I'm really working on my pick angle, everything is going straight down the pick, or down the string, sorry. It's all parallel to the floor. The pick's hitting the string pretty well flat on. So like when I'm playing that slow, that cross pick and roll, I'll check out my pick angle, make sure that it's hitting flat. And the reason for that is that if there's any sort of angle to it, if there's any, up or down, side to side angle, you lose that volume and tone. You're losing control. And so also you just lose a lot of volume. Versus hitting it straight on, and I'm not using near as much force. And so that's a big part of it, it's just how your pick hits the strings. And I talk about that a lot in this course because it's an important thing. When you're practicing this, your right hand, every detail of your right hand is important to dial in.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, how does that change when you go to rhythm? So when you're moving on to a rhythm thing, are you loosening the grip a little bit? How do you approach that?
So I'm not loosening my grip on my pick very much. There are, I will say like 98% of the time when I'm playing, bluegrass style, I'm not doing that. I do a lot of session work, where I'll have to go in and play on country records or whatever, where I'll have to, instead of using a thinner pick, I'll just use a lighter grip. And with that, it's a nuanced thing, but you hear more of the pick whenever you hold it loose versus which is the bluegrass sort of way. Is I'm still holding my pick, I'm gripping it the same way. The only thing that changes a little bit, like when I'm picking, everything's kind of going up right behind this rosette. It's going sort of in a line. It's maybe angled a little bit more where there's some release down here at the bottom where if I need to get back to the low strings. But overall, it's a very thin margin. When I'm playing rhythm, it's a little bit more angled, and I'm kind of, and really it's a sonic choice. I'm trying to get as much, tension and just you want your rhythm to be strong because you're playing rhythm 98% of the time. There's very few occasions where you get to play lead. You have to work on the rhythm stuff. So I really, and obviously we talk a lot about that in the course, but it's all in where you're aiming your hand. With your rhythm stuff, like there's very few instances where I'll play more closer to the sound hole and it'll be softer and I'm not playing as hard. That's very few. It's most of the time. And I take a lot from like Mother Maybell's style of playing because she would play, for instance, like she would play Wildwood Flower. Every downstroke with her thumb got an upstroke with her index finger. And obviously I'm playing with a pick, so that's different. And it's not that drastic, but when I do play rhythm, I take a lot of that upstroke stuff. So and also just to get rid of that boom chuck, you don't necessarily want just a, because that's the dead giveaway of the bluegrass beginner is the boom chuck at the bluegrass jam, or you want it all to be solid, so you're just keeping, it's important to work on. I will say that. I remember, very clearly when I took lessons as a kid, learning tunes, and then I remember the first lesson that we really dove into strong rhythm. And it's not nearly as much fun as learning the tunes, but it's way more important,
Absolutely. You get asked back to more gigs by being a good rhythm player than you do by being an amazing noodler, basically.
Exactly.
So one last one, we're going to wrap up this crazy pick talk, but what kind of picks do you use? What gauge picks do you use? Give us that detail.
Okay, so I use different kinds of picks. And the one I'm using right now is a blue chip. It's a blue chip TAD 60. I don't know if you can probably see the writing on it.
Yep.
And so it is like 1.5 millimeters thick. And it's a sizable triangle. I also use tone slabs, which same size. These are 1.4 millimeter picks. So that's the 1.4. 1.5. So I try to keep different picks on hands, and I go through phases. The short answer would be that I always use either 1.4 or 1.5. It just depends. Like bluegrass is such a nuanced vocabulary that, when I think of like Doc Watson tunes, I think of this 1.4 millimeter thinner. Like a thinner sort of pick. If I'm thinking Tony, if I'm thinking that more round sound, which a lot of times I've played with these picks for 15 years now. So I like blue chips a lot. And there's, luckily, there's a lot of great.
Awesome. I think we're possibly having a little connection issue with Trey there. We're going to get him back on here, I believe. And in the meantime, I want to talk a little bit about this course. If you haven't picked up his course, man, you should really check it out, because as we said, there's 5 hours worth of stuff on there. And the link is below, so check that out if you can. Then we got Trey back. We lost him there for a minute. I think that pretty much smoking lick we were playing literally just melted the internet, and it said can't take it. Too many notes. You're in timeout.
I'm done. I'm done, man.
You reached the note limit for the internet per minute.
Hate it when that
Oh,
happens.
no, man. Hey, that's good stuff though. Good detail about the pick stuff. I mean, that stuff matters, and a lot of times I think, beginners or people starting out or trying to figure things out, they're not sure which way to go and they get different advice. So, really good to hear it from you. As far as the course goes, the cool thing about this course and all TrueFire courses in general are all the tools and the ways to work with the course. I'm going to bring Tommy, our head of production here. Tommy produces all of our courses in the studio. Let's get Tommy on here. And Tommy, can you run us through a little bit of taking a look at one of these courses? There might be some folks here that haven't seen a TrueFire course. Show them how you can basically loop stuff, slow stuff down. It's just really a great tool for learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, man, what a pleasure. I actually get to work with Trey Hensley in the studio on crafting this amazing course. It was a lot of fun. Trey, it was a blast, man.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, let me give you guys a quick tour. So, by the way, we are also simulcasting to Trey's YouTube channel. And so hello, Trey's YouTube channel, all of you guys out there. We see you guys in the chat. Thank you for joining us. And I saw a couple folks asking about where to get the course. We're not able to post in your channel, Trey, with a link. So I'm going to get you a link right after the show, and you can drop it into the description for the video there. So if you guys want to just, circle back in the morning, you have a link there and you go pick it up. But yeah, so this is the course. We'll jump right in there. First off, I mean, just an amazing catalog of content in this thing. 57 videos. You touch on all kinds of different techniques, talking about the right hand, talking about the cross picking, really taking your time to give people a real exercise routine to drill that stuff, because it takes time, right? It's not something that most people are going to pick up right away and be able to nail. So the lessons in here are designed to sort of equip people with the essential techniques to be able to play through these tunes. But look at all these tunes. We got Arkansas Traveler. There's Beaumont Rag. We got Wildwood Flower. The list goes on and on and on. What I want to do right now is jump into a little bit of Salt Creek. What do you think, Trey?
Yeah.
Good one. Let's jump over there and take a look. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick tour of the way the interface works here, because it's pretty cool. You do have the tools to be able to loop any section of the video, slow it down as much as you need. I know I probably need to get it down to about 50% to be able to pick up some of these things. But in some of the sections of the course, we do take things slower. So some folks might want to even speed things up. Let's take a look and see how it works. So I'm going to play a little bit of this performance.
One, two, 1, 2, 3.
So yeah, this is definitely one that I would slow down for sure. And so let's just take a look. We can also just take it bar by bar. You have the tab, you have the notation. We all love tab. If you just hover over a section, you can select a section and just work on that section. Let's say we wanted to go all the way down to 70%. So we could take any section of the tune. We could take a bar at a time. We could slow them down. We could speed them up, and you can jump back to any section of the performances that you want to look at. So there's a lot of great tools in here for students to be able to pick up on some of the things that you're doing, which I think is amazing, man. Let's play just a little bit more. I think we need a little bit more playing. Here we go. So there are a lot of other tools too. So that's like the synchronized tab, which I think is a game changer for a lot of folks that are trying to learn, especially high speed bluegrass tunes. But you are able to like download all of the PDFs. You can print those out, have those handy when you're trying to, set out to practice something. It's nice just to organize your space, have your materials in front of you. So we put all that stuff in front of you as a student. You also have the jam track. So if you want to try just a couple of lines, maybe play a simpler version, or just get creative on it, you can just play along with the jam track
One,
there as well
two,
with
a
every
one,
one of the
two, three.
performances. So great tools that really allow you to leverage all this great content. 57 lessons. I think it's close to 5 hours of content. Trey, we made
Yeah.
in here. It's
Oh,
nuts.
so crazy. And the thing about the tab sync that I really love is you can click anywhere in the tab and it'll go to that spot in the video, or you can click anywhere in the video and it'll go to that spot in the tab. So when we say they're synced up, it's totally synced up. So you can just jump around. You don't have to scroll back or figure out where you are. It just goes there. And then, yeah, the ability to loop a section and slow it down even slower than 70%, where you can slow it way down to whatever speed you need to do to get it down, and it does, stays in pitch, which,
there's a little neck diagram too for folks that like to get that angle where you're able to like almost see it the way that you would see it if you were looking down on your neck. You have that there. You have metronome tools. There's a lot of other things in here. So just a great package, Trey. I mean, I think it's awesome content. We got some great stuff together. And the TrueFire platform and the tools that we put together in there with it, I think make it really easy for everyone to put some focused practice time into this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's the real key is it's like an amazing performance, but then the next video, Trey breaks it down and shows you sort of the essential parts of it, the cool pieces that you want to pay attention to. You can sit down and work out the tab and play this thing note for note and play all the way through it. But he's also just giving you, like I said, these little sort of nuggets of information that are just super helpful.
Yeah, someone's asking in the chat if you can slow down the backing track. You can actually slow down the backing track. There's not quite as granular levels, but you can slow it down if you want to as well.
Yep.
So, there's a little mini tour. And like I said, like peppered throughout here, and we tried to be logical about it. So like some of the concepts, there are lesson concepts in here. So this is like just talking about Trey's rhythmic approach. Each one of these, I mean, these are certainly a little bit sort of, more.
All right, so we're going to talk about some more rhythmic approaches.
General insights, general technique. I mean, if nothing else, if you just study this stuff, a lot of these things are very straightforward. There's the Maybelle Carter approach. Yeah. So back over to you, Jeff. But
awesome.
I'm stoked. This is a great
course. Oh yeah, it's good stuff. Really good stuff. And if if anybody wants to pick up the course, just head to TrueFire. Links. We've got the link in the YouTube live, and we're going to make sure Trey has the link. He'll blast it out to all of his folks and make sure everybody gets it as well to go check it out. But yeah, it's a almost five hours total time of videos, 57 videos, almost 5 hours of just incredible wisdom that Trey probably took at least 2 years to learn all this stuff, right? So
at least
2 years, and he's condensed it down into 5 hours. So yeah, man, that's some amazing stuff in there. So here's a question for you: if someone's kind of trying to get into the bluegrass, man, they're really trying to understand the chops and learn how to solo in bluegrass. Are you thinking about scales over chords? Are you thinking more about chord tones and arpeggios when you're trying to find melodies to play over a 3-chord vamp? What's your approach to that? And what would you suggest someone starts with if they're just kind of getting their feet wet with the bluegrass stuff?
Chord tones for sure. That's when I'm thinking about it. A big chunk of bluegrass is, either soloing in a G position, C position, D, E. You've got your few kind of whole tones that that are important to know your chords around. And so a big thing for me was learning kind of like the cage system of just, figuring out where these shapes were around the guitar neck. So like if I'll practice like a G position, a C, and a D, and practice those sort of around the fretboard. And so when I'm thinking of a song, it could be something like, obviously the first thing is to learn a few of the tunes just by listening to them. You don't have to be able to play them, but just to have them in your head, and know what they sound like, know what those notes are. So when you're thinking of a song that's like a very basic bluegrass tune, like 9-Pound Hammer, where the melody is just. Like I'll try to work on something, especially if it's something new, if it's some, new fiddle tune, just learning the very basic melody of it, learn the just the core parts of the tune. And then you can figure out, at its core, you're still just thinking about that basic melody and the chord shapes and changes around that basic melody. So when I am soloing, I'm just thinking of, okay, if I can, what is the melody? What is the tune? Before I could really, put those notes, put a face to those notes and know where they were on the fretboard. It was all just sort of, where are those chord shapes at? And where can I solo to where it's going to at least sound like I know what I'm doing and what the song is. And I can play G, C, and D, well, and I can play the actual chord changes when it changes. So that's all important stuff to know. But yes, so the short answer of that would be when I'm soloing, I'm thinking of chord shapes, chord tones within those shapes, and arpeggios related to that.
Awesome. That's really good advice. I think that's really helpful for anyone that's kind of trying to get bluegrass under their fingers, and figure that out. And once again, of course, learning tunes, right? Learn as many songs and tunes as you can, because that's going to give you those melodies that you're going to want to play off of.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So, I mean, you're playing out a lot. What's your current schedule? You've been touring a lot. What do you give us a little bit of info on what you're up to right now?
Yeah, it's been a busy year thus far. I am, my main gig has been playing in a duo with this guy Rob Ickes, great dobro player, and we're doing a lot this year. And I'm also working on a solo record, and so like next week I'm out doing some solo shows. Opening the show and playing with my friend's Old Crow Medicine show, and I think there's like 5 shows up in the Northeast, and then Rob and I are down in Texas, and I'm doing just a lot of solo stuff this year on top of the duo thing, and then next year I'll be doing mostly solo stuff. But I'm working on a bluegrass record, working on a country record, and staying busy, man. I've like I said, this year has already been just nuts, and it's only April, so but it's it's good. It's better than the alternative. Love getting out and playing, and that's still my favorite thing to do is playing live, and I have been teaching some more, but not that's typically like reserved for my winter months when I'm home and going stir crazy.
Well, we're glad you shared your teaching with TrueFire. So now anybody can get lessons from you now year round, man. They don't have to wait for winter. They can just pick up the course and they're good to go. So let's listen to one more track from the course, Tommy. Let's roll another tune, because I'd like to have one more one more playthrough on one of these tunes, just for fun to hear another song.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's really good stuff, man. It's just really, really amazing playing.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Trey, which one do you think, man?
Oh man, I don't know. Let's see. Give them something different. You want to do one of the going down the roads?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe one of the. I don't know if there's a medium tempo or the bluesy one.
Yeah, let's do that.
One, two, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Awesome stuff, man. Very awesome. So how do you play a lot of blues? Do you like to play a lot of blues when you're playing?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got way into the blues stuff early on in my playing. And I started playing electric guitar and played in a little, 3-piece rock and roll sort of blues-ish adjacent band. And then, when Rob and I started the duo up, that took, all my time. And I played mostly acoustic in that. I mean, on our first couple records, I played some electric. On our last record, I played electric. And then we did pretty much a blues album, our third record called World Full of Blues. And then, funnily enough, we did a record with Taj Mahal in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Leon Russell's studio, the church that just won a Grammy, this year.
Nice.
And so that was fun. And so I've always been a big blues fan, and I like adding the bends in my acoustic playing, that you don't typically hear in bluegrass.
Right.
It sort of, that's has always been an interest of mine, and so definitely talk about that some in the course.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Someone's asking, do you play fingerstyle? Do you ever do fingerstyle stuff, non-pick stuff?
I do, and I've got a couple different styles of doing that. I mean, like I started playing fingerstyle. Really, I was learning like Earl Scruggs stuff. So 3-finger style. So I did that for a long time, and I play with finger picks some. And then a couple years ago, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band were doing a 50th anniversary of the Will the Circle Be Unbroken album. And Jerry Douglas was the band leader, and they reached out and asked if I could play Merle Travis style. And I said yes, but I didn't really play Merle Travis style. So I learned how to play Merle Travis style really quick. And it's it's been one of the more difficult things I've ever tried to work on. But of course, that is the, thumb and then all the lead stuff with your index finger. You know, that kind of thing. And so I love that stuff. I play fingerstyle a lot when I'm home. And I've written songs kind of around that. Like there's a song on mine and Rob's second album called That's What Leaving's For. That's all based around. There's a song on our last album called Backstreets Off Broadway that. But the only style that I never really have gotten into that I love is like more classical finger style. And I've never gone down that road, but I feel like I've touched base on quite a few different genres. You know, I always like to learn. I'm always trying to learn. I'm never satisfied with how I'm playing, so I'm always working on it. You know.
That's awesome. Well, see that you got to always have something new to work on. You know, you don't want to learn it all, or then what are you going to do? You know?
Yeah. If you think you've learned it all, you're wrong.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, that's awesome, man. So I think, you know, I know we're going to wrap this up here pretty soon, but you know, for anybody that's wanting to get this course, I would definitely suggest, man, just jump in, buy this course. I mean, it's super reasonable price. It's 5 hours of amazing stuff. Just watching the performances is worth it. That's like buying a Trey album right there. Actually, just you could just put those all those burn MP3s with all those and just make your own Trey album right there with all these tunes on there, because it's great performances. And then, like I say, got all the breaking it down, as well as the other standalone sections that are just full of really cool, you know, I would say theory stuff, but in a usable way, you know, things that you're like, good way to think about it. You know, here's how you're thinking about it, sort of some insights into how you look at it when you're playing, which is, you know, I think that's the key, right? You want to try to play like yourself and come up with your things. And, you know, then that's what you did, was you really shared those on here.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that was sort of definitely the goal. I'm glad we, you know, were able to get all that in. Yeah. In the length of 2 Star Wars movies.
Not bad. Not bad.
Back.
That's awesome. Well, all right. Well, for the next ones, we've got somebody saying they want a course on finger picking styles. So that looks like the end of the trilogy, and maybe starting the next series right there. We should be able to knock them out, right?
Yeah, we'll have the third one and Goodfellas.
Awesome. So, man, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you want to watch this, again, everybody, we will post this. This will be posted, replayed on our YouTube channel, right, Tommy?
Yeah, and it should stay up in Trey's channel as well. Like I said, we'll get you your link, Trey. Make sure that gets in there right after the show. And
perfect.
Yeah, I know folks are eager to check it out. So
yeah, for sure. I know they've been a lot of great comments on it. A lot of people, you got a lot of fans out there, man. So that's
awesome, man. Well,
you must be doing something right. So we're just happy to have you part of the TrueFire family.
Well, right back at y'all. Thank you guys.
Awesome, man. Well, why don't you play us a song? Let's play something. How about we play one of your favorite? If you had to, what's your favorite bluegrass tune? And that you play, I guess, not just in general, but what's the favorite one? If you had to say, man, I'm going to play one song before I go, which you sort of are, just not quite like that, but you know, one final song. Let's hope it's not, but
a lot on the line here.
I know, no pressure, but you know, what do you got?
I always think of there's a couple of different Bill Monroe tunes that I like a lot. I guess I will go with there's one called Denver Bell. It's an old Kenny Baker song that I like a lot, and so I'll play that one.
Awesome.